lot of interesting stuff going on with HTTPS right now. Essentially what I'm talking about today, the deployment of HTTPS, in summary, it should be used for everything. There's no longer non-sensitive web traffic. It should be the default. This is probably old news to many of you, or obvious to some, but hopefully to those who it's not, this will wake you up to why HTTPS should be default for everything. Hopefully just make you aware of the way the web is moving. Briefly about myself, my name is Jon Jarvis. Independent security enthusiast. I do this on my own time. It's not a day job for me, not yet. I've been coming to St. Con for a few years, 2013. You know, this is all new, this was awesome. Last year I did a presentation on consumer drones, uses and misuses of them, and how they could be used for penetration testing. This year I'm talking about HTTPS, as well as introducing a website to advocate for it called SecureUtahorg. And my philosophy, like many of y'all, fight for the users. I want to defend, want to do for the users what they can't do for themselves. So a bit about this presentation. Like I said, there's lots of tangential topics, lots of side roads we can go down. I've got links to everything. The slides will be online. The PDF will also be available. I've got an updated one being loaded later today. So if anything catches your interest, definitely look it up. Read over it later. I'm going to skip over some technical details and nuances just in the interest of time and stay focused. I do touch on some stuff related to the NSA and leaked documents. This is a top secret clean presentation. Nothing's named, nothing's revealed. Some activity is summarized, might be referred to. Some of the links do go to classified material, so I don't know if anyone in here has a top secret clearance. There's a chance that people do. If so, I'm not going to do anything to jeopardize that. Likewise, I'm making a best effort at accuracy. So I've done my best to do my homework. However, if I get something wrong, by all means, let me know in person, by email. Let's discuss it later. We're definitely open to correction. So, outline for this talk. I'll go over some of the background and disclaimers about HTTPS, what it's for, what it can and can't do, and then go into the abuses of HTTP, common objections to HTTPS, and the justifications for it, which gets pretty long, which I'm excited about, and the future, how we can apply that here to Utah. To Utah. Excuse me. And as Haroon Mir, a pretty savvy researcher, said at one of his presentations, I'm going to rip off tweets from famous tweeters and rip off smart quotes from older smart guys. It seems to work well for many presentations. A long quote here, but it basically summarizes what HTTPS is for. Integrity, make sure you get what the server sent. Privacy, you're the only one who opened it. And identity, the server is who they claim to be. Pretty simple, but it has a very targeted use case. This is a quote from a gentleman named Ben Balter who works for GitHub. One of the posts I recommend reading. Again, just arguing in favor of HTTPS for everywhere. Relevant knowledge that not necessary, but it'd be good to know. Again, I'm not going to go into technical details. This isn't really a technical talk. It's more high level. HTTPS is essentially HTTP served over TLS. First step is the encrypted tunnel is created between you and the server. After that, all HTTP traffic flows. Because the internet is an insecure network, it was designed that way. You don't know where your data is going. You don't know who's going to look at it along the way. If you want to know how TLS works, that link there is a good explanation of it. This afternoon, Sobit has a talk at 3 p.m. getting into the technical details. I recommend coming to that. Certificate authorities, they've got problems. I'm not going to go into that. It's a big can of worms. But it's the model we have. It mostly works. That's a whole nother talk. But one thing I do like to bring up, I've seen some enterprises doing this. They do certificate pruning, meaning the default certs that are installed in your OS Sometimes you don't need. You need a trusted certificate authority from Brazil, from France. Sometimes those are just installed by default, and some companies will remove those just to reduce the attack surface of their employees' computers. Advocating for HTTPS is not new. Most of you should hopefully will remember the Fireship extension comes out in 2010. It basically allows you to sniff cookies over open Wi-Fi networks and impersonate the user. Log in as them under to their Facebook account, Gmail, whatever. After that was released, a lot of people started paying attention to it. The EFF started a campaign. Lots of good articles coming out in favor of advocating for it. However, at the time, they still promoted the same thing, privacy, integrity. However, there were some definite technical hurdles that really stopped frictionless adoption. So there was some uptake, or an uptake in websites using it, but not widespread adoption at the time. So encrypted communication, a few notes on that. End-to-end encryption, that's so hot right now. That's what you want to be doing. A lot of services, a lot of apps will do end user to server encryption, and then it passes to the server, then server to recipient. That's not good, because the server can be backdoored, it can leak in some way. So for communication, web is HTTPS, email, SMIME or GPG, SMS or voice, use applications by Open Whisper systems. Great company, whether Android or iOS, they have apps. Instant messaging apps use off-the-record messaging or axolotl ratcheting. And Encrypt All the Things, just another website that has more information for new people doing encryption, different ways, or what you can do to protect yourself. Likewise, if you use encryption, whether you're the NSA or some other entity, that's going to be a flag for collection. Not so much because you're automatically suspicious, but because they don't know what it is. They don't know what the content is, who the recipient is. They can't exclude it because they know you're American. It's going to be collected. It's going to be sucked up. Whether it's decrypted or not, that's up in the air. But just know that encrypted communication right now has a higher chance of being collected. But the answer to that, as the Grux says, great, you're all boring. Contribute to the cover. Make everything encrypted. Make it normal. Don't make it stand out. To illustrate this, great, you're camouflaged, you're encrypted. If you're the only one, not going to help you. Quick side story, in 2013, a Harvard student didn't want to take his final exam, emailed in a bomb threat over Tor. Used a disposable email service, used Tor, covered his tracks that way. However, when the FBI investigated and they looked at the Harvard wireless network, there was only one person using Tor that morning. They approached him, he confessed. So with encryption, you're much better off. However, every time I see that picture, I worry about the poor plain text people, clueless about what's going on. So what HTTPS does not do, just so you know, you're worried of your threat model. The domain name sometimes is not hidden. The IP address and ports you're connecting to, the amount of data, the session length, all that metadata stuff is recorded. It can lead to traffic analysis, to side channel attacks, two great studies on how web pages can still leak what they are, even over an HTTPS channel, based on different sizes. The dynamic website transfers different data. You can fingerprint web pages, sometimes with a high accuracy, if you're patient enough and do your homework. The DNS requests. Brand new proposal, DNS over TLS. It's an IETF draft. It's like 2 weeks old, the latest draft. Essentially, collect over TLS, then do the DNS. Do the DNS after the encryption has happened. And could make some headway. I think it's really interesting. Like I said, it's brand new and maybe be popping up more this next year. Obviously, DNS is separate from HTTPS, but it has to happen first. So just another way to leak data. Just be aware, HTTP by itself does not protect that at all. Likewise, if your key is compromised, if it's leaked, if it's broken, and someone captures your data, they can decrypt it. If you use bad cryptography, they can decrypt it. Perfect forward secrecy tries to prevent against that, or rotates keys. maybe every day, every week, so that if some portion is decrypted, the entire traffic isn't. A few problems with certificate authorities. 2011, 2012, two notable problems with CAs where some other entity was, well, a certificate was issued that shouldn't have been. In response to that, Google created the Certificate Transparency Project, a website, ctwatch.net. It's just a public log of all TLS certificates that are out there so they can be audited. And it actually worked. A few weeks ago, a month ago, Google caught Symantec accidentally issuing a cert for google.com because of these logs. So really it's just security should be audited, should be open source. It's just a good example of public information being used to make something more secure. A few more problems with certificates. Really, any CA can issue a certificate for any website. They don't, they shouldn't, but it can happen. That's what happened with DigiNotar. So to protect against that, you can pin a certificate to one CA. Only one CA can issue a certificate for google.com, and that's what public key pinning does. It does have the potential to brick your site, prevent access to it, so it can work really well. Just be careful doing it. Online certificate status protocol, that's the process to check if a certificate has been revoked. OCSP stapling is essentially make the server do the revocation check. You pass that on to the client when the TLS handshake happens. Again, just further verification that the certificate is valid and has not been revoked. So these are extensions that have been added on to HTTPS to help increase the security. Likewise, it doesn't prevent phishing. Phishing domains can get certificates. Just because it has a little green padlock doesn't mean it's not legitimate content. A company called Netcraft that does website analysis. I had an article basically complaining about this, saying phishing sites get certificates. CAs should prevent this. Someone should stop it. But it's kind of outside exactly what certificates are meant for. So interesting argument, and it kind of hinges on the fact that users don't know what HTTPS should do and what it protects against. Likewise, in mobile browsers, sometimes the green icon, the green bar, isn't displayed. So some people don't know that you're connected or you're over HTTPS when you actually are. And it doesn't protect against a keylogger on your machine, against a backdoored or owned server. It doesn't help with anonymity. Seek helpware if that's what you want. Does not protect against the Internet of Things that should not be connected to the Internet. Really, this field is going to produce security talks the next 10 years. All the ways this is going to go wrong. But these two quotes sum it up nicely for me. Why is a fridge validating or implementing the SSL? Someone hacks your home, lights on and off, cold blast of air. It's a poltergeist, right? Okay, so 8 or 9 things that HTTPS does not protect against. What is it good for? A few narrow cases. Every time I see free Wi-Fi, that's the sign that goes off in my head. Watch out, it's free Wi-Fi. Because someone could be sniffing your traffic that's going on. The access point could be looking at what you're doing. People tracking you as you move across different websites. The ISPs that are looking at the traffic as you move across their network. Entities that might tap into the backbone of the internet and split off data to monitor it. And anyone who's going to mess with you. Stealing your cookies. Tor exit nodes are unfortunately malicious. People injecting ads, injecting anything. And nations who just want to get all up in your business. So again, do you really need HTTPS? Verifies who you're talking to. Verifies to the user they're talking to you. Defends against snooping and tampering. Really, the position I'm taking here is there a compelling reason for you not to use HTTPS? I mean, why should you not implement it? There's no technical reason not to do it this time. It's now just, for me, my opinion, it's a matter of willpower. Of course, I don't know your domains. If you happen to manage one or work for a company that does, you know best, but at least seriously consider it. It's time to switch to HTTPS for everything. So a few reasons to prefer HTTP. And these are not reasons that, like I said, or like it says here, the actual website owners. These are for other entities. There's a nice reason to prefer HTTP. This is from 2006, a great little website, the Upsidedown Internet. Essentially, what do you do when someone's using your free Wi-Fi? You block them off, or do you have fun with them? This guy set up a little proxy to intercept all traffic for a particular MAC address and would flip every image upside down. That's all it is, just harmless fun. You can make images blurry. You could replace everything with kittens. But that's the fun you can have. However, ISPs obviously take a different approach. So with my talk here, quick note that everything here is focused on the US. If I was giving this talk in a different country, there'd be different examples, different emphasis on different things. So the stuff here is focused on really Utah and the US. For example, some other countries, if you're the ISP, you wouldn't be tracking users to inject advertising. You'd be tracking users to physically locate them so you could kill them, imprison them, if you're a government-related ISP. Luckily in the US, it seems to be limited to tracking for advertising purposes, and there are a ton of examples of this going on. As far back as 2008, deep packet inspection to sell targeted ads, injecting ads via JavaScript is just the norm for ISPs. A company that actually sold Wi-Fi monetization strategies. It's pretty icky. How can we capitalize on injecting ads? We'll do it for you. So we'll own the access points. We'll put the ads in. You just pay us the money. About a month ago, came out that Verizon, AT&T, and others were injecting tracking beacons into all mobile traffic. After it leaves your phone, before it leaves our network, they put a tracking beacon in that lets their advertising partners see who's coming to them. So if you have AT&T or Verizon, definitely pull the website lessonslearned.org/sniff. It's going to show if that beacon is present. A lot of good articles to read more, to find out more about it. It's an opt-in or opt-out service right now, but it goes on. But essentially, it's just a tracking ID that shows up everywhere. And if you have an ad network that's across 1,000 websites, and you see that same tracking ID pop up on 10 of them, they can correlate behavior and track you as you move around. Comcast also. I mean, these are just two examples that I found quickly. You inject an ad saying your data cap is almost used up. Your bill is late. Try our new free Xfinity Wi-Fi points wherever you go. It's always injecting JavaScript. And really, just two examples I pulled. There are so many out there of people noticing this and identifying it. And all this stuff would happen because it's all possible because it's all people connecting over HTTP. Any kind of ads, and maybe nice reminders. I mean, it's widespread and prevalent. So another reason to prefer HTTP. As I said, nation states like it because you can sit and run the whole network. Maybe you're a not too nasty nation state and you just want to do targeted tracking, targeted injection. NSA's capabilities were revealed in 2013. Canada and UK's signal intelligence agencies also have done similar stuff, at least what's been leaked. But it's all the same thing. I mean, you find a way to track people, you identify them, and you track them as they move across the web because they have access to so many nodes in the network. That last image there is a shot of a slide from Hacking Team. They got brutally owned this summer, and this was one of their demonstrations. Hey, we can inject browser-based exploits over HTTP to get your targets. So this was an interesting use that I didn't really think about until after I started researching this. Some governments like to censor what their residents look at. Some notable examples: India blocks website because they had pro-ISIS content, not just like a whole thing, but maybe a video, forum post. Some small portion of the website they didn't like, so they had to block the entire website. Some Russian agency didn't like one page of Wikipedia. They couldn't block the one page. They had to block the entire website. Same with China. Didn't like some stuff on GitHub, so they tried to block part of it, but it really didn't work. And The point I'm getting to, this quote again from Ben Balter, the last line is really what stuck with me. HTTPS is about more than keeping things hidden. It's about keeping things seen. Excuse me, about keeping things seen. If the entire website is over HTTPS, they can't selectively block one page. They have to block the entire thing. And at least that way, you know the censorship is happening. You can see it happening. If the website is over HTTP and there's one page that a nation state doesn't like, they can degrade that page. They can insert their own content. They can do stuff that's a bit more subtle. With everything over HTTPS, then at least the censorship is blatant and can be challenged or recorded or observed. So BGP, the Border Gateway Protocol, that's the protocol that all the edge routers use at the edge of each maybe nation or giant networks use to communicate with each other and tell everyone how to get to different IP addresses. It's very insecure. At 2008, YouTube went dark for most of the world because Pakistan didn't like some of the YouTube content. So they essentially published new routing tables for YouTube. So everyone trying to get to YouTube got sinkholed into Pakistan for a while until other people figured out what was going on. Talk at DEF CON demonstrated that. And again, I'm just picking a few examples from the most recent years. There's definitely more that happens where traffic gets routed out somewhere it shouldn't go. Again, the internet is an insecure network. You don't know where your data is going to go. HTTPS can help protect you when it goes somewhere that you weren't expecting it to or where it's not supposed to. So this isn't as much of a problem in the US, but again, if you retain the web traffic you carry and you want to analyze it. So the USA has no mandatory data retention law. That's a good thing, except when you consider that really every ISP will hand over data with a warrant, subpoena, or sometimes just a nice, please, will you give us that? Just to be aware, it's more just something to be aware of. I'm not trying to, don't be scared of Comcast. There's other reasons to be scared of them, but to not like them. But just be aware, your data is stored. Comcast, 180 days, they keep it, the session info. CenturyLink, from what I could find, days or more, nothing specific. Xmission is awesome as always. They confirmed by email they don't log anything of their traffic. They don't log any of their traffic. Mobile ISPs, various amounts of logging, but they do retain at least some information of what IP address connected to what website, maybe the headers info. Again, just be aware, you can search for something, go to an encrypted website, and then right after that, go somewhere else. You can kind of correlate what someone was looking for or looking at. So if parts of your activity are encrypted and some aren't, that metadata collection, that metadata inference and traffic analysis can be done to see what you're doing. Again, just be aware, stuff's recorded. It's easier to retain data every year. Privacy policies can change. So it's safer just to assume everything you do is tracked and watched. Okay, these are the reasons for website owners that are probably are known to many people. The classical one: encryption decreases server performance. It's overhead. It's extra cycles, extra computing. Google has a website. One of their engineers put up the website is tlsfastjet.com. Essentially, yes, it is. The hardware these days can handle it. Code has been improved. This really is not a strong objection anymore. Again, I don't have hands-on experience with this, but I'm relying on some other experts here to say it's possible to do this. There's dedicated hardware you can buy. So my point again, at least test your servers. Analyze it first before just rejecting it. This is kind of an older excuse that has been gone by the wayside. You can have an IP address sharing domains, shared hosting essentially, multiple domains on one website. An interesting article here, the encrypted SNI threat model analysis, basically looks at what if the domain name were hidden or encrypted. Again, just entering analysis of what that protect and what it wouldn't. Another reason a lot of websites don't do it, you can't serve those wonderful, delicious advertising ads that everyone loves so much. And really right now, that's a good thing. for obvious reasons. I'm sure everyone has noticed that you go on your mobile websites are filled with ads sometimes. New York Times had an article about how some websites are up to 50% ads. That's half your data being used for advertising that you're paying for, you're losing. Article in Bloomberg Business, online economy is full of click fraud. Really? No surprises there. The third link, ad networks serve malware. I mean, I could have picked any number of a dozen events from the past year. I mean, the point is like ad networks serve malware. In other news, sky is blue, water is wet. It happens. It's kind of the norm now. Because it's over HTTP or because it's ad networks get compromised. So switching to HTTPS is one way to stop some of these ads from reaching you. Sorry, let me back up. Some people don't switch to HTTPS because they can't maintain that revenue coming from their ad networks. Google has rolled out code to support ads over SSL. Should be a link there. There kind of is. When the Google executives came out saying, we've got to change this. Obviously, their business model relies on ads. The ad industry is slowly moving towards adjusting to the reality of everyone's blocking them. The IAB is Interactive Advertising Bureau. A few weeks ago, they had a statement. Hey, we messed up. Our ads are bad. We know it. Let's change it. Let's try to do more lightweight. Let's serve them encrypted. Let's make it more user choice enabled. Mozilla also has some proposed principles for content blocking. It's essentially a group of principles for determining why and how content should be blocked in the browser while keeping the user at the center of the process. So they use these, if you're not familiar with them, Mozilla, they kind of define principles for how we're going to develop our browsers, our products. How do we structure the code we write and the work we do? And this is kind of open for comment right now. How should we allow content blocking in the browser? So again, people block ads, they're bad, but the industry is changing to allow for advertising to continue over HTTPS. And again, just some great quotes. There are a lot of people object to blocking ads. Oh, how will websites survive? It's not moral to do that. But the reactions just are great. I mean, I'm sorry, you want me to execute random code that you don't know where it comes from on my machine, and that's how you make money? No. Also on the right there, just two great comparisons. Indistinguishable from a botnet CNC and exploit kits. I mean, ad networks use the same basic techniques. Okay, certificates cost money, right? Nope, not anymore. Let's Encrypt is now in beta. They are partnered with Akamai to roll out to their customers. I think I've heard 100 or so, maybe, websites have started receiving certificates. If you're not familiar with them, it's basically a certificate for free. Anyone who wants it. Command line interface, they make it as simple as possible. Start SSL offers free certs. SSLmate offers really cheap certs, but they bundle in features and service to justify the cost. So really, certificates are free. Everyone can get one. Configuration and management. Obviously not easy. However, there's maybe 5 years ago it might have been hard, but now there's guides everywhere. You can search online for almost every situation. How do I install a cert? How do I revoke it? How do I maintain it? Let's Encrypt and SSLmate build that in. Cloudflare offers universal encryption, universal SSL. Notice right there the question mark. If you don't have SSL, then, well, TLS, then it's not encrypted between you and them, even though it is from Cloudflare to the visitor. But web hosts, shared hosting, registrars, they all offer guides how to install a certificate. It's not hard to figure out how to get one up and running for simple sites. I hate to pick on SaintCon. I really do. But it's just an example of what these two websites do. SSL Labs and Symantec, you put a domain name in, and they'll run a report that say what ciphers are you using that you shouldn't, what needs to be upgraded, what's wrong with how your certificate is deployed. So great for auditing, great for understanding, and great for pointing out to a website, hey, could you fix this? This needs to be fixed. This needs to be upgraded. The links here, sslabs.com, and Symantec has got a really long link. So there'll be an updated PDF available for download later today. All these slides will be available on slides.secureutah.org also right now as well too. Configuration has gotten, I mean, it's obviously you want to avoid some ciphers, avoid some protocols. All the links there is just kind of explaining why to avoid them, how to do it, how to harden your deployment. So if you want to know how to do it, the information is out there if you want to understand it. Mozilla, again, they have an extensive guide on their website. You know, do this, don't do that. It'll walk you through setting it up. So again, the objection, I don't know how, it's a big learning curve, where do I start? It's out there if you need it to get a cert deployed and get your site up and get your site over HTTPS. Okay, kind of not a common objection, but it still comes up. People get confused by the warnings they see when errors happen. And this has been a big problem. Chrome has kind of done some work on it this past year. This example is from some work they did earlier this year, where they kind of revamped some of their warnings. A up on top is the old, C is the one on the bottom, obviously making it more easier to understand, help the user make the right choice. The PDF and the video link to that research is interesting if you're into user experience and user interface design. So it's an ongoing process. Obviously, people want warnings to work, and so Chrome is aware of that and working on it. Google is aware of that. Likewise, they just made a change to how HTTPS websites are displayed. They removed the yellow icon, and I've seen this pop up on websites now. It's HTTPS, but there's no green lock. Why? Because there's errors in it. Maybe it's using a weak cipher. It's got a certificate that's expiring soon. But it's no longer marked as secure, because it's not totally secure. It's not as secure as it should be and as it could be. Really interesting website, badssl.com. This tests your browser, shows how your browser reacts to different problems that happen, how it's displayed in the address bar, maybe the warnings that might come up. So it just goes through a whole lot of use cases of what's your browser going to do when it encounters an SSL certificate that's not implemented correctly. Okay, not so much an objection of the website owner, but more the people who handle corporate networks. Let's go ahead. So if you have to inspect traffic, you'll find a way to do it. Either you'll install your own cert, you'll block domains, you'll do selective decryption. If you have to have access to a website, you'll find a way to do it. So really, if you're worried about, oh, my website won't be accessed by such and such crowd, if they need to, they'll find a way to get to it. And lastly, indifference. I mean, I've read some people who are like, I don't want to do it, I don't care. And like I said, this might have been an excuse, but now for a number of reasons, I'm going to get to in a second, really I don't buy it anymore. I'm making a judgment here that if you're on a website, now's the time to switch to encryption. If you don't want to do it, then find someone who does, you know, or maybe find a job that you like or you want to be proactive for. I'm taking that position because when researching this, I kept coming across new reasons to enable HTTPS, new justifications for it, that I think really resonate with anyone who owns a website or likes to serve content. The obvious one, the cost to entry is almost zero. There's an extension called Strict Transport Security. Say your website is available over HTTP and HTTPS. If you turn on HSTS, you enforce HTTPS connections, you know, to stop someone from entering HTTP and then your website name, to stop downgrade attacks from someone in the middle stripping that encryption. It's set on the server side and it's sent to the client, basically telling the client you can only connect to me via HTTPS. Also something called HSTS preloading. This is done on the client side. Chrome does this. You give Chrome your website. You say, hey, put this in the browser. Anyone who connects to my website, it can only be done via HTTPS. So Chrome has this built-in list of websites that you can connect to. It's great for like, government sites, financial sites, something that's going to be long-term, you can maintain. But it just kind of helps buffer that security. You've got the client knowing they should connect. You've got the server telling them they should connect. Helps make sure that HTTPS happens. And it's supported by all major browsers. This image is from a website. If you do any kind of web development, it's a website called caniuse.com. Really cool. It shows all kinds of protocols or widgets of code and stuff like that. And it says, will it be compatible in which version of the browsers will it be compatible in? So again, these things I'm showing you, they're available out right now. You can take advantage of them. There's really limited technical hurdles to taking advantage of HTTPS. So browsers themselves are moving away from HTTP. Mozilla kind of kicked up some dust in April. Yeah, they made a post. They're deprecating non-secure HTTP. Essentially, they're committed to focus. What it means, the way they presented it was, they're committed to focusing new development efforts on the secure web, and to start removing capabilities from the non-secure web. So HTTP won't break. It's just going forward, we're going to focus on encrypted communication. So one of from the FAQs that was on the website there, I want to read one of them. But there's nothing secret on my site. Why should I bother with encryption? HTTPS isn't just about encryption. It also provides integrity, so your site can't be modified, and authentication, so users know they're connecting to you and not to some attacker. Lacking any of these properties can cause problems. In other words, as long as your site is not secure, it can be used as a weapon against your users and against other websites. More non-secure sites means more risk for the overall web. Also another post there, we're deprecating HTTP. Again, kind of explain it, but Mozilla's moving away from it. There's no timeline. It's not going to happen like this month, next year. But this is the future of how Mozilla sees the web. It's going to be encrypted only, almost all encrypted, and HTTP hopefully will fall by the wayside. Non-secure HTTP. Likewise, Chromium security team also wants to change the icons in the browser. Instead of HTTP being marked with just plain icon, it'll be explicitly shown as non-secure, so people are aware of it. Which is also, changes to the UI like that are kind of big. It affects how people think about things. So when you start going to websites that are marked as non-secure, they're going to react to that. Again, no stated timeline, but it's just on their roadmap. Other browsers haven't made a statement that I could find about deprecating HTTP, but with Chrome and Mozilla going that road, hopefully they'll follow. The W3C, in case you don't know about them, it's the World Wide Web Consortium. They're essentially one of the industry's standards bodies that define protocols and roadmaps and how things should be done correctly for the web. They've had a number of statements come out about various ways to improve website or to improve security and communication. This proposal here, upgrade insecure requests, is really for websites. Say you have a news website. You've got 8 years of web pages, all kinds of links that are hard-coded HTTP. You can code the domain as anyone coming in, treat those HTTP URLs as if they were HTTPS. The resources are served over HTTPS. The links don't say it, but just treat them all as HTTPS. To save the website owners of having to go back and redo hundreds and hundreds of web pages just to make them compliant. So again, another way that browsers and website owners are working towards making everything served over HTTPS. So it can also reduce unsanctioned tracking. Unsanctioned meaning not authorized by the user or by the website owner. Again, the W3C, the tag would be the Technical Architecture Group. They made a statement, unsanctioned tracking is harmful because it's not under the control of users and not transparent. Mozilla and W3C are big on user buy-in, user choice. You should be aware of what you're doing, what's happening to you online. And the unsanctioned tracking that is going on, they're against it, and so they use these statements, these principles to kind of guide their development. Again, going back to the Verizon merged with AOL. That's a huge customer base, a huge tracking. They combine that with Apple and Google ad IDs, and you've got a really an unholy merger of tracking capabilities that's going on, which they really can't do if you connect to a website over HTTPS. So I mentioned censorship earlier. Well, censorship sucks. That's my position on it. And this is one of those issues where I'm definitely going to quote some older, smarter guys. I get that there's gray areas in selectively sharing things to, national security, what you want to show your kids, private details. There's situations where you don't want full disclosure. But I'm in the favor, if it happens, you should be able to know what's happening. You should be able to challenge it, to question it, to observe it. So on principle, I'm against it, and HTTPS, like I mentioned the examples earlier, it does help stop that happening, that the selective censorship of some portions of some websites. Okay, kind of summarizing a lot of what I said before, the network is essentially hostile. Consider it like that. Consider it that way and act appropriately. Matthew Green is a cryptographer. He works at Johns Hopkins University. He's got a great blog about cryptography and security and communications. He had a post called "Network is Hostile," and it's a reaction to revelations that the collaboration between AT&T and the NSA, but kind of laying out up at the top here, there is no network security. Third parties are responsible for handling and routing your data. No way to ensure they're being looked at unless you implement that yourself. And he used as an introduction to go into, it's the revelation of AT&T collaborating with NSA was something we kind of suspected, knew about, but to see like the hard evidence of it, you're like, wow, I didn't realize it was that bad or going on that much. So it goes on, it's a long post, and I highly recommend reading that. Network monitoring by the NSA is, again, one of those topics that's a lot of nuances. I'm not going to go into it either way. But Matthew Green does a good job looking at the ramifications of the collect everything approach to surveillance and how that might play out in the future. Namely, NSA has its faults, but what if other entities start doing it that don't have some of the protections and checks and balances that the NSA does have? Because it's going to happen elsewhere. Now that the NSA does it, other countries will follow suit. The IETF released an RFC back in 1989. Assume the network is filled with malevolent entities. They will send packets designed to have the worst possible effect. Prepare accordingly. And that just, to extend that, again, network is hostile. It's things get rerouted. The BGP attacks can happen without warning, without you knowing about them. Tor nodes can be malicious. An article here from Alec Muffet at Facebook engineer, saying, he's talking about being a Tor hidden server. The same mentality applies to HTTPS. Do you love your users? If so, do this for them. Make it easier for them to connect to you. Like I said, a lot of content. I'm going to try to go a little bit faster here. Again, with everything being collected, you don't know what might be suspicious or when. A great post from Moxie Marlinspike, another security researcher. We should all have something to hide. It's not, I have nothing to hide. We all might have something to hide. You don't realize it yet. Maybe not now, maybe 3 months. You wish something you'd done in the past was hidden, not because it's wrong, but just because it's well, again, a lot of nuances. Good post to read. HTTPS can help prevent and help increase the privacy of your users. You provide sensitive info. Big example here, AIDS.gov a few years ago leaked someone came to the website, looked for clinic information, and it leaked the zip code location of it. So someone listening could find out information that the user assumed was sensitive and private. The website got taken to task, they improved it. But it's a big example of information leaking that it's not financial, it's not high security stuff, but it is sensitive. And I'm making a list when making this list, there's all kinds of topics I could have included. I mean, some stuff, anything that could be potentially sensitive, could be stigmatizing in some way that you don't want people to know you're looking at. Your Google search history, for example, that's a common thing trotted out. What if everyone found that out? What if everyone found out your browsing history? Some people have an expectation of privacy that they shouldn't, but you hope that the stuff you look at online is not revealed. And HTTPS, when you serve this over websites, you add an extra layer of privacy to anyone looking at the information you provide. Again, long list of things that easily you might want to have protected. Anything with politics, with you looking for law help. Look at the news. What the news articles you looked at can be tracked and put together to correlated to put together a profile on you. Anything with security, you want to make sure you get a clean ISO. You want to make sure the code you download, the white paper you download, is not been infected. So everyone is doing it. Again, all these standards bodies coming out saying how HTTPS should be enabled. It needs to happen. All good links, all interesting stuff to read about. But these are all the people who help shape how the web is built, how it's handled. They're all in favor of it. Major web companies moving to HTTPS. Gradually, the big websites have switched over. They've got big needs or huge infrastructure challenges that they have to surmount, but it's happening. HTTPS Watch down there at the bottom and Qualys SSL Pulse both track the adoption of HTTPS by many websites. So it's kind of an interesting way to see what's going on. Some notable examples of media and blogs that have switched to it. And I'm going to go to their Google Switch blog post to HTTPS by default. So again, the justification from these websites and blogs: privacy, security, integrity, anti-censorship. I mean, it's all the same things repeating. They're all buying into it. These aren't just little sites. These aren't sites doing it to posture because of security. These are serious websites that are making this change because they believe in it. And finally, the federal government, earlier this year, April or so, I forget, released what they call the HTTPS only standard. Essentially, all federal websites by the end of next year need to be served over HTTPS, need to have strict transport security enabled, everything. So it's a big move right now in the federal government, the developers who handle that, to make that happen. Again, repeating the same stuff I've said before. No such thing as non-sensitive web traffic. Everything should be considered sensitive. Like I said, by the end of next year is the goal to have everything over HTTPS, and there's a good adoption already. They have their own tracker to track the adoption of it. Good news is this is the code to do this is on GitHub. It's open source. It can be forked. And it can be customized. I'll come back to that in just a second. So again, I talked about the website owners, what they have to do, their objections to it, and why they should do it, and why they should switch to HTTPS. For clients, it's pretty easy. Update your browser, update your OS, and you're usually covered. You can house my SSL that tests your browser to see if it can connect correctly. A couple other things: HTTPS Everywhere extension forces the HTTPS connection to happen. uBlock Origin is just an extension that blocks advertising phishing websites. So again, not directly related to HTTPS, but can be useful and kind of tangential to the whole cause. Okay, going back to summarize, why switch to HTTPS? The server-side part is solved. It's not too hard to get it set up. You might have some weird situation that might slow it down, but there's really not a technical reason that, from what I've seen, from what I've found, to not implement it. Client side is easy to do. So I'm taking the position that choosing to enable HTTPS, it's a matter of willpower, of principle. It's something you believe in. It's something you should do because it's the right thing to do. You get secure communication. You get data integrity. It's anti-censorship. And like I said, it doesn't apply much to a Utah website serving Utah customers, but it does help to make HTTPS, make encryption the norm, make it standard, make it not stand out. And with all those standards bodies coming out in favor of it, it's essentially now best practice for web developers, for website owners. It's the way the browsers are moving, it's the way the web is moving, it's best practice, it's your professional obligation implement this now. And lastly, SecureUtah.org. Essentially, it's a pet project of mine. Over the past year, I've read more about this, become more involved, become essentially, as you can tell, a believer in it. This is how I want to help advocate for HTTPS in Utah. A few good reasons for it. Pretty obvious. Utah's tech scene is great. It's growing. The security scene here is amazing. Like I said, I came here to CenCon 2 years ago. Half as many people, just as awesome, but to see the size this year is great. There's a huge technical scene, technical knowledge base here in Utah that I feel could definitely buy into it. There's also almost no advocacy going on at the state level. Federal level, yes. Big HTTPS standard I mentioned is happening, but nothing on the state level that I've seen has started to proceed. Our Utah.gov website is great. It's received tons of awards. I've watched it develop the years I've been using it. If you haven't noticed it, it's easy to use, it's interactive, it's responsive. However, it's not entirely over HTTPS. Portions of it are, but not everything. For example, the Department of Technology Services. You'd think their website would be served securely. Unfortunately, it's not. Their domain. Even the main Utah.gov website, you can't connect to it over HTTPS. So again, a few targets that hopefully, if anyone here works for the government or knows someone that does, I'd love to talk to you. Find a way to bend your ear and convince you to make it site-wide. Personally, I mean, there's a lot of, as I said, anyone can serve sensitive content. I'm going to be seeking out really all kinds of industry people, different industry, different groups. Law firms, Utah Bar has got a couple conventions. I'm going to try to address them. Healthcare providers, financial institutions, education. Really, it's easy to pick out, there's reasons to frame your argument for any kind of industry why you should switch to HTTPS. Mormon.org switched to HTTPS by default sometime this summer, spring. They've got a lot of good IT guys over there. They know what they're doing, a lot of good security guys. So again, if it's default for websites such as them, they find a need for it. Not hard to extend that to apply to really everyone. However, SecureUtah.org is pretty much bare bones right now. I got this presentation done. I just barely got the website rolled out. It's on GitHub, meaning I'm open to contributions, to help, to suggestions. So mainly it's going to be setting up a way to track the Utahgov deployment. An HTTPS watch for Utah private entities saying, here's all our banks, here's all our main businesses, have they implemented it yet or not? A way to kind of this public wall of who's doing it, who isn't. What I plan to do is essentially make the website better, continue outreach, and the hurdle I know I'm going to run into is I tell these businesses, you should switch, and they're like, great, I love it. How do I do it? Who's going to help me? We need some kind of resources for companies and businesses that don't have a dedicated IT staff, who don't have the knowledge base to do this. So it'd be great to draw on the SaintCon crowd, the Utah Saint group, technical crowd here. Likewise, if you like the idea, if you hate it, I'm definitely open to criticism and feedback. Really all it is provide information, track who's doing it, and contact people until they do it. Not annoy them, not shame them, help them get it done. And a bit of a wish list. It is on GitHub right now. I'd love to have it switch over to a private server, VPS or Amazon, and secure it. However, that's not my forte. Same with CSS. I could puzzle through it. I can Google stuff, but it's going to take me 2 weeks. With some people, it would take half a day. Likewise, I'm interested in how to fight traffic analysis. If someone's great at Python, I got a few ideas for scripting some stuff. HTTPS proxies could also, I think, be useful. Likewise, is there room for privacy advocacy in Utah? Encryptutah.org. I mean, maybe there's someone who's willing to take up that cause. But that's essentially it. HTTPS should be adopted. Multiple reasons for doing it. And I'm going to be spending most of the next year trying to get it done. That's it. Any questions? I know we're almost at lunchtime. Yeah. No, it's designed it's supposed to leak your local IP address. That's the way it works. So if you don't like that happening, like if you use Tor, you have to block it and turn it off. Yeah. I believe they all do.
Actually, no.
No, they don't?
No.
It's on their roadmap to do it? No.
Let's Encrypt, which is one of those.
Right.
What their thing is you can get domain validated search. That's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of doing wildcard, you can just get a different search for every.
I had looked into it.
Because it's free.
Great.
So why do wildcard when you can get anything you want for free?
You can get all the certs you want from Let's Encrypt, so wildcard isn't done. I think it's done with SSLmate and the others. I think so. I'm not sure. You have to just go to the website and check. Easy to find out.
Star SSL is the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the only two free.
Yeah. Also in the slides on the website and the PDF, extra information. HTTP2 is interesting if you're doing web development. All the links I mentioned as well too, easy to find in here. And some of the articles I mentioned, really great reading, really good stuff to know to expand your knowledge of people who are arguing in favor of it, in favor of privacy and encryption. Thank you.